Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. I am Brian Hyrick. I'm here with co-hosts Mike O'Donnell and Joseph Pencille. Today, we will be reviewing and showing you how easy it is to launch FreePBX, an instance hosted by SYSTM. Today, let's just take a look at what we'll be going through real quick. We will be doing a brief introduction to VoIP Supply for those of you it's your first time logging in. Also, running through SYSTM, who they are, what they do, and how it's really beneficial and why VoIP Supply trusted, teamed, and wanted to offer SYSTM to our clients as well. We will then go into a live demo of launching FreePBX in SYSTM, as well as review some best practices as well with Joseph Pencille, head engineer here at VoIP Supply, and Michael O'Donnell with SYSTM. Just a reminder for everyone who is logged in today, we really value and appreciate your participation. There is a Q bubble that's in the lower right-hand corner. Please feel free, click on that, ask us your questions. They're really important to us, and we want to make sure all of your needs and concerns are addressed today live on this webinar. For those of you who are not familiar with VoIP Supply, since 2002, we have catered to and curated over 125,000 customers worldwide. Some of those whom are actually partners, some are service providers, some are end users as well. So really, we have a pretty broad reach. We do have some benefits to become a reseller with VoIP Supply as well. Of course, we have a rental program. As you know, more companies are moving into an OpEx type spend. So we do offer device as a service rental program, and that's through all of the manufacturers that VoIP Supply does carry. Hardware and provisioning, of all the 60 manufacturers that VoIP Supply does offer, and 16,000 products, I'm sure it's actually more now, we do have the ability to provision them for you. What that means is your devices can arrive on your site or your client's site, programmed, labeled, ready to plug and play. And those have been tested as well before they ship. That does help as well with your operational costs, as even eliminating purely the chance of a DOA arriving on site. We do have a marketplace, which SYSTM is a part of. We can also help you find SIP trunks to be used within SYSTM as well. So through the various partners, VoIP Supply did gain exclusive pricing and relationships for those SIP trunk providers and hosted providers as well. Fulfillment, if you do want us to hold private stock, even do asset tagging and private labeling for your company, we certainly can do that for you with real-time access to manage your products right from order to delivery. Another benefit to VoIP Supply is our Reclaim and Refresh program. If you're ever in an instance or a competitive situation where you get on site and there's some old Polycom phones that the customer no longer wants but doesn't know what to do with them, call us. It's possible that VoIP Supply can actually offer you either store credit or cash in hand for those older VoIP phones. And on the flip side of that as well, if you're ever up against someone who really does have a tight budget, VoIP Supply can offer our refreshed units that do go through a 10-step process at a very low competitive rate with a full year warranty on them. I did go over our provisioning and VoIP fulfillment, but just as a reminder, feel free to contact me after this webinar, or if you have questions during it as well. Feel free, contact me. I'd love to address all of your needs and concerns. And just to drive home as well, VoIP Supply does have some of the highest residuals and equipment discounts in the industry. Also, teaming with VoIP Supply will get you access to our extended sales team. We do have combined experience of over 50 plus years between the reps. Myself, Brian Hyrick, I've been enjoying my time with VoIP Supply now for 12 years. So you will find a very highly tenured sales team who really does care about your organization and your specific deployments, and we really do want to help. And with that being said, VoIP Supply really found one of our partners to be very helpful for our resellers and end users alike, the community. That is SYSTM, from Mike O'Donnell. And I would like to introduce to everyone Mike O'Donnell from SYSTM. And Mike, if you can tell us a bit about your offering.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Brian. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the webinar this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you're at. This is Mike O'Donnell from SYSTM. I'm going to touch very briefly on SYSTM, just a quick snapshot. And then we're going to very quickly pivot to Joe, the head engineering at VoIP Supply. And he's going to actually go through an actual spinning up and launching of a FreePBX instance within SYSTM. Okay? So let's start with SYSTM as a snapshot. SYSTM is really a voice-only hosting platform. So the only thing that it really does in life is it works with different applications, which at this current time include FreePBX, PBExact, SwitchFox, 3CX, Vital PBX, and Avaya. We're going to touch and focus on FreePBX for today. So really with it is we're trying to create a process where the installation is simple. We have elevated security in a way of helping partners and end user customers protect themselves once they do spin up their host. And we have unlimited infrastructure support. And the goal is to really make something that could be a burden, could be time consuming, could be difficult, and really make it simple so that you can focus on your application, you can focus on your end users, you can focus on your customers. So launching your voice applications in the cloud. In working with VoIP Supply Engineering, we really looked at taking all the necessary steps to launch your application and sort of shrink wrap it into 5 steps. And what we're going to show you today is we're going to take you to the website. We're going to follow a process where we launch the application, in this case FreePBX. We're going to build it. You're going to see it work, hopefully complete it within 10 minutes or less. And then we're going to actually go back in and show you some best practices on how you can then access your new FreePBX, which you just launched in the cloud. A couple screenshots I'll show you real quick before we pivot to Joe, which is going to actually show his desktop to take you into the real platform here. So you can see the platform itself is relatively simple. It's meant to be rather intuitive, where you can choose your application, you can build your application, you can then manage multiple customers or end users or whatever applications you currently have hosted, and you can simplify your support. And it's all within the platform, the management console that you would have as either an end user customer or a reseller. So at this time, Joe can take you guys through the actual real dashboard, and we can get going here and spinning up the FreePBX.
Hi everyone, this is Joe Pencille, Senior VoIP Engineer at VoIP Supply, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how simplified it can be to start your FreePBX instance. First, you're going to go to SYSTMSVC.com. That's the main landing page. Go to click on Get Started. And then from here, you can choose your flavor of PBX. Today, we're going to go and choose FreePBX, and you would choose Continue. Now, from here, this is where you're building basic hardware specifications, that is optimal for your instance and how many phones, simultaneous calls. Usually, by default, with a nice hefty system, you're looking at probably around 2 GB of RAM, and you're looking at about 2 core, and then maybe about 120 hard drive disk space. And what happens is on the right hand side, as you're moving these meters around, it will show what the pricing is going to be as a hosted system. Now what you can do first is, after you build the specifications that you need, you're going to have to use a host name, and this is just to identify your different hosts. So if you're going to have multiple hosts with SYSTM, multiple PBX instances with SYSTM, this is how you can identify them. You can say FreePBX is this one, and then SwitchFox, Avaya, and so forth. Now down here, we're going to choose the version and the latest image that's on the FreePBX website, is 1904-2. For this purpose, we need to go ahead and generate a promotional code. And let me go ahead and use the promotional code so we can get the instance started here. And again, we're choosing the version. So you have old school FreePBX 6.12, 10.13, which is CentOS 06, and then these two are CentOS 07 for Linux operating system. Okay, and then you can go ahead and check out, and this will actually start the instance installing here. One moment. Okay, so currently I have that new instance created today, and it shows IP address 172.98.196.11. That's the way that you can access the web UI. Now what we need to do is we need to click on the actual hostname instance that we created. So we're going to click on the FreePBX demo. And how you get started for the installation is you're going to click on the console screen. And this will start loading the image. And just go with the default FreePBX 14*13 is fine. And then we're just going to do output to VGA because that's what we're looking at. If you're doing output to serial or console, you would choose that. And you just press enter twice and it starts installing. So this process takes approximately about 7 to 10 minutes. It is fairly fast, especially if you're in crunch time trying to deploy a PBX server system.
Yeah, and as this is doing this, one of the things that you saw on the dashboard, and I don't know, Joe, if you want to take them through the main dashboard within this particular instance with some of the other capabilities they have at their disposal.
Sure, absolutely. So basically, these tabs that are available, it shows the overview. So it has the status. It shows that the virtual machine is on. You can refresh the virtual machine at any time when needed. The service nickname is what I added before the instance was to install. Once that was created, it generated a random IP address within the pool to access. And you see how much disk space you have, memory, and how many cores are added to that instance. Now, with the network aspect, there are the virtual interfaces, and they have a firewall. The firewall basically is for an Avaya instance. Any port forwarding that you might need to do essentially is already done. So they're port forwarding 5060, 10,000 through 20,000 for audio packets. So that way you're able to send and receive phone call and actually hear the caller and callee. Along with that, you do have the storage available of the virtual machine, and then any snapshots that you need to take, because if at any point something became corrupt, you can take a snapshot of the new install, fresh install, and then if something did become corrupt, you can just click on that old snapshot and reload the system like nothing ever happened. And then you have logs. So this is all system based, but this is actually advantageous so you guys know what is happening with the VM instance as you're running your PBX. As you're starting to make phone calls and you're throwing a little more information to the server, you can see what's being used with the CPU usage and the memory. So obviously this is down right now because it is installing. It doesn't have that much traffic towards it. But once you start saving recordings, things like that, you'll see the disk space start eating up, and the CPU, all the activity that is going on. But that's a good way to monitor it as well. Within the FreePBX instance on the dashboard, it does have those monitoring as well, but that is for the server related. This is for the virtual machine instance relation. And then you have your billing aspect here. Now up on top with the dashboard, so you see exactly what was purchased. You can control it that way. If you have any questions, you can actually submit a ticket to System, and they can help you out with any billing questions or virtual machine. Basically anything system related, you can ask them. And then if you need technical support, VoIP Supply would assist the technical support aspect of the FreePBX instance, or whatever actual PBX instance that you're installing and running on your production systems. So along with the services, this is where you can see all of your cloud PBX instances. If I click on it, you can see what VoIP Supply has as demos for our customers and future customers. This is the new one. And you can edit details of your account, change the password, and this is to access the actual portal of System. The security aspect is any IP addresses that you may need to allow, such if you're going to provision any remote extensions and you need those WAN IP addresses allowed in. And then again, this is the support aspect, and this shows the affiliates of the System who you can sign up with, the vouchers that they offer. Mike, I'm not sure if you want to touch up on what Sentry is at all, or...
Yeah, I think the only thing that, you know, to stay focused on the FreePBX in the cloud for everyone who joined. And I think from the standpoint of, you know, sometimes you might have customers that for whatever reason, they want to stay on-prem, they don't want to move to the cloud, or maybe it's a timing situation where they're just not ready yet, but you're still supporting them. If you're struggling with security-related issues, I encourage you to reach out to VoIP Supply. They do have a couple capabilities, whether it's the Sangoma SBC or whether it's a device called Sentry, which is part of System. They have a lot of capabilities to give you a device that really helps to secure that on-prem equipment. And then, of course, when you do move to cloud, you know, then you'll take advantage of a lot of the security functionality within System itself in the data center. But, you know, don't be shy about reaching out if you're kind of stuck and you have to remain on-prem. They have some security capabilities for you. So I encourage you to reach out.
So when you go to do this instance with FreePBX, basically, you know, it does everything that you need it to do behind the scenes. All you need to really do is just add the root password for SSH access. So I created a password, and I'm going to go ahead and press done. And then it'll continue. I believe it's this package right here, 630 or 638 out of 707. This one takes probably about a good 4 minutes itself, but this is almost done. And then once this is installed, you would basically go back to your VM instance here, grab this IP address, and then go ahead and add it to your browser. And then you'll be able to see the FreePBX web UI login. So a little bit more controls here with the VM instance. You can send the keys to the virtual machine. Go ahead and you can add the full screen. And then the command options to interact with the virtual machine: start, shut down, stop, reset, etc. So the newer FreePBX instance that you can download on their website, it's going to load what they call SNG 7, and that is the CentOS 7 Linux operating system. And then the older versions, they were called SNG 6 because of CentOS 06.
You know, I think, Joe, from the standpoint as this is as the packages are loading here, and I think if we look at some of the steps, you know, to go into System, launch the instance, and then once you launch the instance, then there's some best practices that if folks aren't as familiar with doing, you know, I know you're going to touch on them, which I think is, you know, to log in and create your passwords, and then I believe it's to activate the FreePBX, and then you start looking at things under System Admin and so forth to make sure that your host is secure and it has the right credentials set up. So this will be good to go through. You know, Joe did a good job sort of, you know, outlining the dashboard. You know, one of the things that is available here is you have snapshots, which typically folks will use to take a machine level snapshot. they'll do some upgrades or changes or apply maybe some new modules. And that's great because if you do get stuck, you could just apply the snapshot at the machine level and you're good. The backups are great because you can create a schedule. So built into the platform, you can create up to 2 backups, and it could be at whatever time interval you want. And those backups get pulled at the time interval designated and saved elsewhere. So you have the combination of both, and depending on what you happen to be trying to accomplish, one or the other may be better, depending on the application.
Actually, I did see one question come through. If we can answer that live, that'd be great. It had a question about connectivity as far as dial tone. Does system provide SIP trunks, or what's best practices there? And Mike, if you want to answer that, that'd
Yeah, I mean, I can
great.
take that. So System does not provide any SIP trunking. It is strictly the hosting platform. So I encourage folks who have that question, if you don't currently have a provider, or if you're looking for switching providers or a provider in and of itself, I'd encourage you to reach out to VoIP Supply. They have a host of options available to you. And System will, since we're only a hosting platform, once you build your application, perhaps Joe, if we have time on this webinar, can show you where to go to add your SIP trunks. But you could, in a sense, work with VoIP Supply to identify the best SIP trunking partner that meets your needs, based on the application.
Yeah, absolutely. So feel free to contact me with that. We do have various SIP trunking providers that we do partner with, but we do like to kind of custom partner you with the right SIP trunk provider for the right scenario, because it may be multiple.
All right, so at this time, the actual FreePBX is installed on the virtual machine. So you would just reboot from here, and this will log into the SSH instance in order to sign in. Okay, so it's fully loaded. So this is the SSH side of it. So default would be root, and then the password that you put for the instance. And then you can see that's FreePBX. You can see the IP address that it's pulling from the virtual NIC card. And now what you can do is go back to the VM instance on system, grab the IP address, open up a new tab, and then you can copy and paste, and then it immediately loads. And this is the welcome. So first and foremost, we're just going to use the defaults, and then notifications. I'm just going to put my email address. System identifier is what you want to label this. So this could be something in the graphics department, something like that, just to identify, or VoIP server 2, whatever you wish. Now the automatic module updates by default are enabled. The module security updates by default are enabled. And then for send security emails for unsigned modules is enabled. So it's going to tell you everything that you need when there's crucial updates. It will send to your email. So here we are. You have the FreePBX administration, user control panel, operating panel, and get support. Click on FreePBX administration. I just did admin as default. Okay, so this is the wizard, and you would need to activate your system. Now this is important. You can skip it, but you always would need to activate it, because you're not going to get basically all the bells and whistles that the system administration module offers, such as dynamic DNS. You also need the system admin pro module with FreePBX. Right now I'm going to just put in a fictitious email, just so we can get started here. Now this email address is important, because basically when you build this is building your profile on portal.sangoma.com. Okay, so right here, being that they don't have record of this email address, now you need to go ahead and build your profile. So we can just say, just do this. Enter the password, and this is going to be the same password as you would for the portal.sangoma.com. Right now I'm just going to do this.
And Joe, this is really a password. So if you're working with Sangoma for various products and services, would you leverage the same password that you already have for their portal for this?
Yeah, absolutely. When
Okay.
you fill this out, this is to actually create your portal.sangoma.com account.
Got it.
So if the free PBX was not activated and you made a portal account, you can still access your instance once it's actually activated. Because if you go to create an account and you go to find your PBX, and if the PBX is not activated with a deployment ID, it's not going to be able to find it. So it's
Great.
very important to do this. Yes, I want to receive. Okay, now this is optional. You can put a location name. I'm just going to put York activate. So this is going to go out, hit the Sangoma servers, come back, grab a deployment ID, and restart Apache services. So this right here, you're going to get in the beginning. You have an option with PBX UCC Cloud. And this right here is promo for Sangoma phones. Now, Endpoint Manager is free of charge with Sangoma phones and Digium phones only. Any third party, you would have to contact VoIP Supply, and we can get you the license if you have any additional manufacturer phones. So right now, everything is default. Just press submit. Now, the firewall at this time, you can go ahead and enable. You can always abort the process and go back to it. Right now, we're going to enable the firewall. And we need to trust our outside IP address. Okay. And this is SIP trunking made by SipStation that you can sign up with. And I'll show you how you can load SipStation and any SIP trunks you might need. So right now we're going to say not now, but there is a trial version. You go to sipstation.com. And basically it generates a registration key after all said and done. And you'll be able to add that to the free PBX instance. And the trunks are basically already pre-scripted. So you'll have no problems making and receiving phone calls immediately after it's built. So here is the free PBX dashboard instance. As you can see, you have your admin controls, you have your applications, connectivity, your dashboard, which is this facing right here. So you can just refresh your dashboard. As you can see, the CPU, the memory utilization. So first and foremost, when you get a new system, what you want to do is you want to go to admin, and then you want to go to system admin. Being that the PBX is activated, you have these options right here on your right available to you. So you can click on your activation, and you can see what's included. So if you had commercial modules added to the free PBX instance, they would load right here. This is your deployment ID. This is very important. Once you sign up with the portal.sangoma.com account, you type in that deployment ID and you'll see your instance. Anything that is done on the Sangoma side, portal side, you would have to update the activation to impact the new license. First and foremost is important is you want to resolve host names. The first one should always be, there's no place like home, 127.0.0.1. And then you can use the DNS servers that are coming from your external. And then you can go ahead and use Google's IP. Any of these DNS servers, this is important, any of these DNS servers that you are using, and if you have them on your firewall, everything has to match. You won't be able to have DNS servers on this server, and then let's say a Dell Sonic wall has different DNS servers, you're not going to be able to make your calls. The intrusion detection, the IDS system, is also very important. You want to whitelist any of the IP addresses that you want in. So you have your local 127, and for this instance, I'm just going to say 127.98.196.11 and then /32, just to say this always has authorization to allow in. So you want to whitelist any of the WAN IP addresses / whatever your CIDR of your network is, 24, 32, 16, etc., and any of your remote extensions. You want to highlight, or excuse me, you want to whitelist their WAN IP address /32. Once all that's said and done, go ahead and submit, and that allows outside networks in, so that way they're not blocked once the phones go to register to the server. Your network settings, you can choose static, which is highly recommended, or it's going to pull DHCP. With this instance, you're only allowed one NIC card. Mike, are they also allowed another instance of an actual NIC card, or does the VM only come with one?
The standard VM comes with one. If
Okay.
there's a custom application or a use case for dual, just open a ticket or have them circle back with VoIP Supply engineering.
Okay.
And then we would just have to create that on demand.
Okay. So the host name basically is next. I mean, this is what is out of box experience. This is what's default. You can name it whatever you wish. We'll just do FreePBX demo. And then you update the host name. So this could be your local host name. Now, also, what's most important is after you get done setting the IP addresses for the intrusion detection service, you want to go back and choose connectivity and then firewall. So your firewall, this is basically where you're adding the responsive, who has authorization, what protocol drivers have authorization to be allowed in to this instance in order to be registered. So you need to allow the protocol in, and you need to allow the IP address in. And that's where you would do the whitelist on the intrusion detection system. Next, you want to allow any trusted network. Usually by default, this is set to internet. So this is only allowing this instance in, and then you can update the interface. Now, once you start plugging and communicating with this network and all your devices, it's going to show IP addresses. It might show IPv4 and IPv6. If you're not working with IPv6, you can delete those. And also, this is for any trusted networks that you want to allow in from the outside. When you're working locally on the PBX, let's just say you're on a end user computer and you go to access this IP address, you always want to make sure that you whitelist that IP address of the computer that you're on, or else you're going to be locked out from the intrusion detection system. So just make sure that you're allowing all of your IP addresses that you trust locally and externally. And that's it with the firewall settings. As you know, you're adding more devices, you just need to trust them with the interface here, and then you would add as trusted. So by default, this is exactly what you want. And then you can see the status of your registered clients, total number of any attacks detected, and then they will be blacklisted for 3,600 seconds. So you would want to increase that by default. Now, these are core services that you may want to touch upon to actually increase the security a little bit more. If you do have any questions, you can submit me a ticket at hardwaresupport@voipsupply.com, and I can answer these questions for you. And then getting in a little bit more advanced, these is actual zone information. So it tells you, defines exactly what you're setting as security: the internet, local, other, rejected, and trusted. These are all the ports, local ports that you would, they're already open internally to the PBX, to the server. Any pre-configured IPs that you might need, and following the RFC. And then there's safe mode, custom firewall rules, and what to do with rejected packets. So basically, once the system installs, you just would need immediately go to the admin, system admin, and then over to activation. And then after activation, make sure it's activated, go to your DNS, set that up, and then to your intrusion detection system, and then add your host name, make sure your network is either on static or DHCP. Now, someone did have a question about the SIP trunking. You would go to, with FreePBX instance, you go to connectivity, you go to trunks. And what happens is you would add a trunk, and for this purpose, we'll just use Chan SIP trunk. Once you sign up with SipStation or whatever hosted SIP trunking provider, they basically are going to give you a script, and you're telling what the server needs to look to make the phone calls. So the host would be the IP address or FQDN of the SIP trunk host. And then if they're looking for registration, they're going to give you username and password. And if they're looking for IP authentication, you basically just connect without a username and password. They will provide you what they are looking for, how they provision their side of the SBC in order to make the calls. Again, if you do have any questions, shoot me a message, hardware support at VoIPsupply.com. All right, so that's about it. We can go ahead and into the questions at this time.
Yeah, and this is Mike real quick, Joe. That was great. So I think, really at this point, a lot of the activation and setup items are done, and you're really at a point now where you can begin starting to build your dial plan, starting to get your phones ready, and attaching and configuring your phones with the extensions. And so now it's all about execution of rolling out, whatever dial plan and configuration you want to roll out to your users at this point. So, Brian, at this point, do you want to turn it over? We'll go into some questions, and then
yeah, I do have one question now. One was, I did get here late. Did you guys review pricing, or can you talk a bit about the pricing model?
Sure. Joe, do you want me to start with the system piece, and then do you want to touch on the FreePBX piece?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so let's pull it up here. So, on the system website, once you sign up for an account through VoIP Supply, and you hit Get Started, as Joe alluded to early on, okay, what you're going to see is you're going to see the box for FreePBX. So from a pricing standpoint, as you move the sliders, so based on whatever application or use case you have, you may have a requirement for different configurations. So it comes down to memory, cores, and disk size. So as you move the sliders, the price will adjust. So I often tell people, whether you're an end user retail customer or whether you're a reseller or partner, you can very easily, to look at a specific project to begin to cost it out. You can very quickly log on. You don't even need an account. You can log on to just the system website, click on one of the boxes, and then begin to move the sliders based on what you believe resource-wise you need. If you have questions, such as, I don't know how much memory I would really need in this application, or cores, VoIP Supply and System is here to help. The questions that I will typically ask is the quantity of extensions, number of concurrent call paths, and then whether or not you're doing call recording. Those are the things that typically move the needle based on resources. And we can certainly help you begin to plan, what a potential instance would look like based on the size of your customer. So that's from a system standpoint. I would say once you have the host, which we touched on, I would say the other components are, you have the FreePBX application, which you've seen, and that there's no license fee for that per se, right? But there are other modules, many other modules that are available. So based on your application and what your customer or your users want to do, you may want to get with VoIP Supply and say, I have a customer base that needs a small contact center. I have a customer base that needs capabilities for a mobile workforce. So there are other modules that Sangoma sponsors
Yeah.
that are part of an added license, and the cost depends on what type of license you add on. But certainly VoIP Supply can help you, sort of navigate that and understand what that is. The other components would be SIP trunking, phone hardware, and items like that that sort of round out the solution. Again, depending on the application. You can even go as far as converting the FreePBX to PBXact as well, if it made sense. So I would say, Brian, from a cost standpoint, it does depend, but I think those are the components.
Sure, absolutely. Moving on to the next question. This question is coming in. It's stating, is IP-based firewalling secure enough for securing your endpoints and your SIP trunking? So Mike, maybe you can touch upon the security aspect to system and give a brief overview of that.
Well, I think security is a bit imperfect. Of course, it's an ongoing battle that I think we all face. At a high level, the system comes with a layer 2 filter, layer 2 security capability, which the idea behind it is to hopefully make your PBX as invisible as we can by blocking IP scanners and known threats for voice over IP PBXs. So that's included with the host. And then beyond that, I think it's just staying on top of setting up the rules and the access for user access to web admin and GUIs, for phone access, for mobile phone access, and just really staying on top of making sure that you're diligent about whitelisting really only what you really need to whitelist. And if you need to open access, controlling the protocols and the applications that get through. And it is something that you have to constantly maintain as the threats change. No perfect answer there. IP Tables does a very good job to give you resources to set up rules that you need. And if you need help, or if you want any of us at VoIP Supply or so forth to kind of take you through it, we're available to help.
Perfect. Thank you. On this one, how can you create a Dotty extension on a virtual instance?
You won't be able to because it's hardlined.
Perfect. Joe, Mike, do you have anything else to add for today?
I just want to say thank you. And I encourage any questions that come in, and I can make myself available, but certainly, I would encourage everyone to consider signing up for the sandbox that VoIP Supply has. And if you haven't already begun to launch and test an instance, whether it's FreePBX or another Sangoma product, feel free to do so, and they could easily get you set up with an account. So I look forward to hopefully working with everyone.
Absolutely. And again, my name is Brian Hyrick. Please feel free to contact me anytime. Thank you so much for everyone's time and participation today. The questions were great. Participation was awesome. And feel free, open a free instance through our sandbox, and we would love to show you what we have to offer. So thank you again for everyone's time and participation today. We know your time's valuable, and we greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.